I am sitting in my empty apartment staring at the walls that used to feel like home. Just 1 week ago, I had a fiancé, a wedding planned for June, and a family that loved me. Now I have none of that. It all started with a text message I accidentally saw on her phone. I thought I had found my person, the one I would spend forever with. But the truth turned out to be more brutal than I could have ever imagined. Before I dive into how my entire world collapsed in 7 days, I need to ask you something. Where are you watching this from? Drop your location in the comments below. And if you have ever trusted the wrong person, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story will show you why trusting your gut is more important than trusting words. Now let me take you back to the night everything started to unravel. My name is Emery. I am 32 years old and I work at a financial consulting firm in Portland, Oregon. 3 years ago, I met Amber at a mutual friend's birthday party. She was 24 then, with long brown hair and a smile that could light up any room. We hit it off immediately. She worked in marketing and we bonded over our love for hiking and terrible comedy movies. After dating for 2 years, I proposed to her at Crater Lake during a weekend trip. She said yes without hesitation, and I felt like the luckiest man alive. We had been engaged for 8 months when everything fell apart. Our wedding was set for June, just 4 months away. We had already booked a beautiful vineyard venue outside Portland, chosen our invitations, and Amber had been trying on wedding dresses every other weekend. We lived together in a 2-bedroom apartment downtown. Everything felt perfect, or at least I thought it did. My family adored Amber. My mom, Linda, treated her like the daughter she never had. They would go to brunch together every Sunday while I played golf with my dad, Frank. My younger sister, Sophie, who is 28, became best friends with Amber. They went shopping together, shared clothes, and talked on the phone for hours. My dad, a retired police officer, always said Amber was smart and thoughtful. He respected her opinions and often asked for her advice on random things. I genuinely believed I was marrying into a larger version of my already close family. But about 2 months before everything exploded, I started noticing small changes in Amber. She began spending more time on her phone, often taking it with her into the bathroom. Sometimes I would catch her smiling at her screen, and when I asked who she was texting, she would say it was just a coworker or a friend from college. A few times she came home later than usual, explaining she had client meetings or was grabbing drinks with people from work. I did not think much of it. I trusted her completely. Then one Wednesday evening, Amber told me she had to go on a business trip to Seattle for 2 days. This struck me as odd, because in the past, whenever she had weekend work trips, she would invite me to come along, and we would make a mini vacation out of it. When I suggested joining her this time, she quickly shut it down, saying her company was cutting costs and only approved travel for one person. I accepted her explanation without question. I had no reason to doubt her. That was my first mistake. Trust without verification, I have learned, can be a dangerous thing. But back then, I was naive. I thought love meant never questioning the person you were with. I thought doubt was the same as disrespect. I could not have been more wrong. 2 weeks after that Seattle trip, everything changed. It was a Friday night. Amber and I had planned a quiet evening at home. She was in the shower and I was in the kitchen making us dinner. Her phone was sitting on the counter and it lit up with a text message. I was not trying to snoop. I just happened to glance over and saw the name on the screen, Dylan. My stomach dropped. Dylan was Amber's ex-boyfriend. They had dated for about a year and broken up 4 years ago, right before she and I met. She had mentioned him a few times early in our relationship, always saying the breakup was mutual and they had not stayed in touch. Seeing his name on her phone felt like a punch to the gut, but I told myself it could be innocent. Maybe he was reaching out about something random. Maybe it meant nothing. But then I read the preview of the message. It said, "Cannot wait to see you again. Last time was amazing. When can we meet?" My hands started shaking. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. I knew I should not have done what I did next, but I could not stop myself. I picked up her phone and unlocked it. I knew her passcode because she had given it to me months ago, saying she had nothing to hide. What I found destroyed me. There was an entire thread of messages between Amber and Dylan going back 2 months. They had been meeting up regularly. The so-called business trip to Seattle. That was a lie. She had spent the weekend with him at a hotel. The messages were explicit, romantic, and filled with plans for future meetups. But what really shattered me was a text from Dylan asking about the wedding. Amber had replied, "Do not worry about it. Everything is going according to plan." According to plan, what did that mean? I felt like I was going to throw up. I quickly took photos of several messages with my own phone, then put hers back on the counter. When Amber came out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel and smiling, I forced myself to act normal. I told her I had a sudden headache and needed to go for a drive to clear my head. She looked concerned and asked if I wanted her to come with me. I said no, I just needed some air. I drove to a park about 10 minutes away and sat in my car for over an hour. My mind was racing. How long had this been going on? Did she ever really love me? Was our entire relationship a lie? I wanted to confront her immediately, but something told me to wait. I needed to know more. I needed to understand what I was dealing with before I made any moves. The next few days were torture. I had to pretend everything was fine while living with someone who was betraying me. I started paying closer attention to Amber's behavior, and I noticed even more red flags I had somehow missed. She would feel nauseous in the mornings, which I had attributed to work stress. She stopped drinking wine with dinner, something she used to love. And then one day, while taking out the trash, I found a used pregnancy test in the bathroom garbage. My blood ran cold. I could not handle this alone anymore. I reached out to an old college friend named Marcus, who now worked as a private investigator. I explained the situation and asked if he could follow Amber for a week. Marcus agreed without hesitation. He said he had dealt with cases like this before and would get me answers. A week later, Marcus sent me his report. Amber had met with Dylan 3 times during those 7 days. He provided photos of them at coffee shops walking hand in hand and entering a hotel together. The evidence was irrefutable, but I still was not prepared for what came next. One evening, Amber came home from work with a huge smile on her face. She said she had wonderful news. My heart sank because I already knew what she was going to say. She sat me down on the couch, took my hands in hers, and said, "I am pregnant. We are going to be parents." She hugged me tightly, tears of joy streaming down her face. I felt sick to my stomach, but forced myself to smile. I asked her how far along she was. She said about 7 weeks. I did some quick math in my head. We had not been intimate in almost 3 months because she kept saying she was too tired or not in the mood. If the pregnancy was 7 weeks along, that put the conception right around the time of her fake Seattle trip. I asked a few more questions, trying to sound excited. She answered vaguely, saying she wanted to schedule a prenatal appointment next week and asked if I would come with her. I said yes, even though I knew there was no way that baby was mine. 2 days later, while Amber was at work, I made a decision that would change everything. I went into our bedroom and opened her laptop. I felt guilty about invading her privacy, but at this point, I needed to know the full truth. I found a hidden folder labeled Personal and opened it. Inside were email exchanges between Amber and Dylan that made my blood boil. Amber was pregnant with Dylan's baby. He did not want to keep it and had asked her to terminate the pregnancy. But Amber refused. She told him she had a plan and not to worry about money. In one email, she laid out her entire scheme. She would marry me as planned. After the baby was born, she would get a DNA test, proving it was not mine then, file for divorce, and sue me for child support. She had researched Oregon law extensively. Apparently, if we were married when the child was born, I would be considered the legal father and could be held financially responsible, even if the baby was not biologically mine. She calculated that with my income, she could receive around $1,500 a month for 18 years. But the part that hurt the most was what she wrote at the end of the email. He is so naive. He trusts me completely. This will be the easiest money I have ever made. Dylan responded, "You are brilliant. Let me know if you need anything." I printed every single email. I took screenshots. I saved everything to a flash drive. I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. The shock and pain were still there, but now I had clarity. I knew exactly what I needed to do. The next morning, I called the lawyer Marcus had recommended, a man named Mr. Harrison, who specialized in family law. I met with him that afternoon and showed him all the evidence I had collected. He listened carefully, reviewed the documents, and then gave me the best news I had heard in weeks. Because Amber and I were not yet married, I had no legal obligation to her or the child. If I had married her before discovering the truth, I could have been in serious trouble. But as it stood, I was free and clear. Mr. Harrison advised me to end the relationship immediately, keep all the evidence in a safe place, and be prepared in case Amber tried to retaliate legally. He said if she attempted to sue me for anything, we could countersue for fraud and emotional distress. I thanked him, paid his retainer, and left his office feeling empowered for the first time in weeks. That evening, I set up a plan. I asked Marcus to come to the apartment and wait in the spare bedroom as a witness. When Amber got home from work, I was sitting on the couch with all the printed evidence in a folder on the coffee table. She walked in, smiling, asking what I wanted for dinner. I told her we needed to talk. Her smile faded, and she asked what was wrong. I started with a simple question. When did you last see Dylan? She looked startled but quickly composed herself. She said she had not seen him in years. Why was I asking? I pulled out the photos Marcus had taken. I spread them across the coffee table. Photos of her and Dylan kissing. Photos of them holding hands. Photos of them walking into a hotel. Her face went white. She tried to explain. She said Dylan was just an old friend. They had run into each other by accident and were catching up. It meant nothing. I let her talk, and then I asked the second question. Is the baby mine? Amber's eyes filled with tears. She said of course it was mine. How could I even ask that? I opened the folder and pulled out the printed emails. I read them out loud, word for word. The entire plan to trap me into marriage. The scheme to sue me for child support. The part where she called me naive and said I would be easy money. She crumbled. She tried to deny it at first, saying the emails were taken out of context, but I kept reading. Eventually, she broke down completely. She cried and said she was sorry. She said it was a mistake and she never meant for it to go this far. She begged me to forgive her, saying we could work through this. I looked at her and felt nothing. No love, no anger, just emptiness. I told her to pack her things and leave. She asked where she was supposed to go. I said that was not my problem anymore. She needed to be out of the apartment by the end of the night. That was when Marcus stepped out of the spare bedroom. Amber looked horrified. She realized I had a witness to the entire conversation. She started yelling, saying I had no right to trap her like this. Then her tone shifted. She said if I kicked her out, she would tell my family I was the one who cheated. She would make sure everyone knew what a terrible person I was. She would ruin my reputation. I stayed calm. I told her to go ahead and try. I had evidence and witnesses. The truth would come out eventually. She packed her bags in angry silence and left around 10 that night. I watched her car pull away and felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. Not sadness for losing her, but sadness for the time I had wasted on someone who never truly loved me. The next day, I woke up to a phone call from my mom. Her voice was furious. She asked me how I could do such a horrible thing to Amber. I was confused and asked what she was talking about. My mom said Amber had come to their house the night before crying and telling them I had cheated on her with a woman from work. She said Amber was pregnant with my baby and I had thrown her out onto the street. I tried to explain that none of that was true. I told my mom Amber was the one who had cheated, not me. My mom cut me off. She said Amber had shown her text messages proving I was having an affair. She said she was ashamed of me. When I asked to come over and explain in person, she refused. She said she needed time to process how disappointed she was. Later that afternoon, my sister Sophie sent me a text. It said, "I cannot believe you. Amber was perfect for you. How could you cheat on her?" I tried calling Sophie multiple times, but she did not answer. I sent her a long message explaining what really happened, but she did not respond. That evening, my dad showed up at my apartment. I opened the door and immediately knew something was wrong. His face was red with rage. I tried to speak to tell him my side of the story, but before I could get the words out, he punched me in the face. I fell backward onto the floor, my lip bleeding. He stood over me yelling. He said I was a disgrace to the family. He said that girl was carrying my child, and I had abandoned her like a coward. I tried to get up, tried to explain, but he would not listen. I attempted to grab the folder of evidence from my desk, but he pushed me away. He told me I was no longer his son. He said he did not want to see my face again. Then he left. I sat on the floor holding my bleeding lip, feeling more alone than I had ever felt in my life. My fiancée had betrayed me. My family had disowned me. And all because of lies. For 2 days, I stayed in my apartment, barely eating or sleeping. I kept replaying everything in my mind, wondering if there was something I could have done differently. But then I realized I was not the one who needed to change. I had done nothing wrong. I had trusted someone, and she had exploited that trust. My family had believed her lies without giving me a chance to defend myself. I deserved better. On the 3rd day, I decided to take action. I composed a long email to my parents and my sister. I attached all the evidence, the screenshots of text messages between Amber and Dylan, the photos Marcus had taken, the printed emails detailing her plan to sue me for child support, the report from the private investigator. I explained everything in detail, step by step, leaving nothing out. I wrote about how I had discovered the affair, how I had hired Marcus to confirm my suspicions, how I had confronted Amber and given her a chance to tell the truth, and how she had chosen to lie to my family instead. I ended the email by saying I understood if they needed time, but I hoped they would read the evidence and see the truth. I hit send and then waited. Hours passed with no response. I began to think they would never reply, that the damage was irreparable. But then late that night, my phone rang. It was Sophie. Her voice was choked with tears. She said she had read everything and could not believe what Amber had done. She said she was so sorry for not listening to me. She had even called Amber to confront her, and when Amber realized Sophie had seen the evidence, she hung up and blocked her number. Sophie asked if she could come over. I said yes. When she arrived, she hugged me tightly and apologized over and over. She said she should have trusted me from the beginning. I told her it was okay, that I understood why she believed Amber. The lies had been convincing. The next afternoon, my mom called. Her voice was shaking. She said she was sorry. She said she had read the email the night before but needed time to process everything. She explained that Amber had come to their house with a very convincing story, complete with fake text messages that made it look like I was the one having an affair. My mom said she should have given me the benefit of the doubt, should have listened to my side before passing judgment. I told her I forgave her, but it still hurt that she had not trusted me. She understood. She said she would do anything to make it up to me. But there was one person who still had not reached out: my dad. 3 more days passed. I heard nothing from him. Then one evening, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find my father standing there. He looked older somehow, his shoulders slumped, his eyes red. He asked if he could come in. I stepped aside and let him enter. He stood in my living room, looking around as if seeing it for the first time. Then he did something I never expected. He got down on his knees in front of me. He said he was sorry. He said he had failed me as a father. He had let his anger control him, had acted without thinking, and had hurt his own son in the process. I looked down at him, this man who had always been so strong and proud, now broken and humiliated. I felt my own tears start to fall. I told him I forgave him, but what he did had hurt me more than anything Amber had done. He nodded. He said he knew, and he would spend the rest of his life trying to make up for it. He stood up, and we hugged. It was not a happy reunion. There was still pain between us, still a wound that would take time to heal. But it was a start. A few weeks later, I heard through mutual friends what had happened to Amber. Dylan had abandoned her once he found out her scheme had been exposed. Her reputation in our social circle was destroyed. She ended up losing her job because word had spread about what she had done. Eventually, she moved back to live with her parents in another state. I did not feel satisfied by her downfall. I just felt relieved that I had escaped before it was too late. In the months that followed, I focused on healing. I started seeing a therapist to work through the trauma of betrayal. I spent more time with my family rebuilding the trust that had been broken. My mom and Sophie were incredibly supportive, checking in on me almost every day. My dad and I had several long conversations about trust, forgiveness, and what it means to be a family. It was not easy, but slowly things started to feel normal again. I also started taking care of myself in ways I had neglected. I joined a gym and began working out regularly. I took a solo trip to the coast and spent a weekend hiking and reflecting. I reconnected with old friends I had lost touch with during my relationship with Amber. I rediscovered hobbies I had set aside. Slowly, I started to feel like myself again. The biggest lesson I learned from all of this is that trusting your instincts is not the same as being paranoid. When something feels wrong, it usually is. I also learned that standing up for yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. For too long, I had been passive, accepting things as they were, because I did not want to rock the boat. But sometimes you have to be willing to destroy the boat entirely if it is sinking. I learned that family can make mistakes, even terrible ones, but real love finds a way to overcome them. My father's apology did not erase what he did, but it showed me he was capable of growth and accountability. That meant something. Most importantly, I learned that being alone is not the same as being lonely. After Amber left, I thought I would feel empty. Instead, I felt free. I was no longer walking on eggshells, no longer doubting myself, no longer trapped in a relationship built on lies. I was free to be myself, to make my own choices, and to build a life on my own terms. I do not hate Amber anymore. I actually feel sorry for her. She threw away something real for something temporary. She chose deception over honesty, greed over love. And in the end, she lost everything. I hope she learns from her mistakes, though I doubt I will ever know if she does. As for me, I am doing okay. Better than okay, actually. I have my family back. I have my self-respect. I have a future that is mine to shape. And I have learned that sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the greatest freedom. So if you are watching this and you are in a situation where something feels off, do not ignore it. Trust yourself. Investigate. Ask questions. And if you discover the truth is painful, do not run from it. Face it head on. Because the temporary pain of truth is always better than the long-term suffering of a lie. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where someone you trusted betrayed you? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments below. And if this video resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this story with someone who might need to hear it. Your support means everything, and it helps me continue sharing these real-life experiences. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there who is going through something similar. Remember, you deserve honesty. You deserve respect. And you deserve a life built on truth, not lies. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.